Thank you for participating in the ANA panel review process. This is Training Module 2, Understanding the Funding Opportunity Announcement Review Criteria. The training objectives for this module are to 1. Provide you with an overview of the Funding Opportunity Announcement, or FOA, to better understand how all FOA sections are relevant. 2. Understand the connection between the ANA project framework and the review criteria. 3. Learn how to use the review criteria to evaluate an application. And finally, highlight the key differences between the SEDS FOA and other ANA funding opportunities. Before you begin this module, be sure to have a copy of the ANA SEDS FOA in front of you. You can pause this video and locate a copy if you don't have it handy. Also, make sure that you have the current version of the FOA with the due date of April 15, 2022. While this presentation will hit on key points of the ANA SEDS FOA, you will need to have a full understanding of the FOA for the program area you are reviewing and use the appropriate FOA to evaluate applications during the panel review process. For this module and during the panel review process, use your copy to take notes and highlight important points. Many slides in the presentation will note the page numbers and FOA criteria being referenced, so be sure to follow along. If needed, don't hesitate to pause this video to read the FOA criteria in detail. As mentioned, the panel you are assigned to will determine which FOA to use. ANA has 5 FOAs, each of which have a different purpose and focus. The Esther Martinez Immersion, or EMI program, provides funding for community-based projects that ensure continuity and vitality of native languages through immersion-based instruction. Programs funded under the EMI NOFO must meet the requirements for either a Native American language nest or a Native American survival school. The Preservation and Maintenance, or P&M program, provides funding for projects to support assessments of native languages in an established community, as well as the planning, designing, restoration, and implementing of native language curriculum and education projects to support a community's language preservation goals. The Social and Economic Development Strategies, or SEDS program, is focused on community-driven projects designed to grow local economies, strengthen Native American families, preserve Native American cultures, and decrease the high rate of current challenges caused by the lack of community-based businesses and social and economic infrastructure in Native American communities. The SEDS Alaska, or SEDS AK program, is designed to provide targeted support for village-specific projects to improve and enhance the core capacity of Alaska Native village governments, who are central to fulfilling social and economic self-sufficiency in Alaska. This program promotes economic and social self-sufficiency for Alaska Natives and is intended to respond to the unique governmental structures and needs in Alaska. And finally, the Environmental Regulatory Enhancement, or ERE program, provides funding for the costs of planning, developing, and implementing programs designed to improve the capability of tribal governing bodies to regulate environmental quality pursuant to federal and tribal environmental laws. The structure and format of each of these ANA FOAs follow an Office of Management and Budget approved structural outline. One of your primary responsibilities as a reviewer or chairperson is to read the entire FOA for your assigned panel. The FOA is the guide that all applications follow, and there are 8 sections to each funding opportunity announcement. Section 1 is the program description, which describes the purpose of the FOA and program areas of interest. This section also provides a brief introduction to the ANA project framework, project monitoring tools, and key project features. Section 2 includes information on the number of awards, award ceiling amounts, project start dates, and the length of projects. Section 3 has a listing of eligible applicants, information on the non-federal share, a listing of projects ineligible for funding, and application disqualification factors. Section 4.2, entitled Content and Form of Application Submission, contains information about application formatting requirements. Key to your review is the subsection on the project description, which starts on page 27 of the FOA. This section provides details on the application content, including the ANA project framework. The project description is the section that you need to read thoroughly to understand exactly what information ANA is looking for in the application. Section 5 is another section that you will be referring to continuously throughout the panel session. Specifically, Section 5.1, entitled Criteria, on which your scores will be solely based. Section 6 covers Federal Award Administration information. Section 7 provides awarding agency contact information. And Section 8 contains a list of reference websites and an application checklist. In addition to the 8 numbered sections, there are 3 appendices at the end of the FOA. Appendix A starts on page 69 and has a list of definitions of terms used in the FOA that you may wish to reference as you move forward. Appendix B on page 73 has an example of an outcome tracker, and Appendix C details the requirements for documenting the Board of Directors. When looking at Section 5.1 on FOA criteria, you'll see a series of headers, subheaders, and numbers. The headers indicate the criterion and the maximum points for each criterion. There are 3 criterion headers for the approach, organizational capacity, as well as the budget and budget justification. The subheaders refer to subcriteria, and each subcriterion has a subcriterion score range that details the distribution of the maximum score for that section. Each subcriterion is followed by a listing of numbered elements. These elements are what reviewers will base their evaluations on. Now that you understand how to find and read the FOA, let's talk about each of the criteria, beginning with Criterion 1, the approach section, which is worth a maximum of 73 points. As we go through the following slides, you will see reference to the corresponding page numbers in the FOA in the bottom corner of the slides. Please follow along with your copy of the FOA. The ANA project framework begins on page 53 of the SEDS FOA. The first 6 subcriteria of Criterion 1 make up the ANA project framework, which is the foundation of the application. It is intended to outline the project in a way that connects project outcomes toward reaching the long-term community goal. The framework component should all logically align. ANA's project framework includes a long-term community goal, current community condition, project goal, objectives, outcomes and indicators, as well as outputs. These components start the narrative with the balance of the application describing how the framework elements will be completed and the costs required for completion. We'll go over each of these components in the upcoming slides. The remaining subcriteria within the approach section following the ANA framework include the outcome tracker and outcome tracking strategy, community-based strategy, readiness and implementation strategy, and the objective work plan. There are a total of 25 subcriterion elements across this section. As we move through this training module, I will not be reading the FOA elements. Instead, I will be discussing how applications can best respond to the elements and pointing out how you, as a reviewer, should objectively evaluate if the application has done so. As a reminder, The slides will indicate the element or elements being described and the FOA page number so that you can follow along.